Hello everyone and welcome to the newest video on this channel. Today we'll be starting a new type of video on my channel, boss ranking videos. This is a thing I've kinda subconsciously done, rank bosses in my head, but now I get to talk about them in a video, and I think it'll be a decent amount of fun for both me and you. Hopefully. However, I've only completed 2 Let's Plays on my channel, so my options for ranking bosses are fairly limited. I'm doing my Batman Arkham boss rankings once I've completed Arkham City and the majority of Arkham Knight, so that'll have to wait till the future. However, there is one other game I've beaten on this channel, the heavily criticized, underrated Sonic Forces. I stand by what I said when I played it. I had a great time. Therefore, I'm actually happy to return to it in order to rank the very few bosses that the game contains. This will be a nice warm-up to when I start ranking things like all 145 Soulsborne bosses. Oh yeah, that list is coming. Anyways, onto the criteria that we'll be using to rank these bosses. In this particular list, I will be basing my rankings off of 4 categories. First of all, difficulty, which is worth 10 points. This isn't based off objective difficulty, but how fair the challenge feels in the context of the fight. To use an example unrelated to the series, while Udex Gundyr is very easy to defeat for me,
you'll never defeat me, badass. Whoa, what the fuck? Yeah, this isn't... Whoa, what the f***? What is that? Somehow I'm not dead yet. How am I not dead? Yeah, I'm dead now.
Nowadays anyway. He's the tutorial boss, so of course he'd get a lot easier with time. So he would still have a decent difficulty score. However, Sonic Forces isn't exactly known for its crushing difficulty, so this will be somewhat tough to grade. Therefore, I will also be throwing in how hard it is to get the completed in a certain time achievement for each boss. It won't have a massive effect on the difficulty score, but it'll definitely help. Next up, theme, 10 points. One thing to make any boss great is the music. This category will of course be highly subjective, so feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Design, 10 points. The mechanics of the fight are obviously important when it comes to judging its score. Finally, entertainment, 20 points. Of course, how fun a boss fight is will determine a large part of its score, seeing as I mainly play video games for fun after all. This will of course be the most subjective category on the list, so once again, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Without further ado, let's get on to the list.
Together we can show the world what we can do.
The worst boss in the game for me is easily Zavok. He's just so uninteresting. He is the first boss in the game, and for the time he's serviceable. Okay, maybe not serviceable. Above terrible, I guess. He's not hard to beat at all, even for a first time player. His design is honestly kinda boring with the way he just attacks and sends minions after you. His boss theme is just above average, and he's not actually that fun to fight. The kill isn't even very satisfying, seeing as Sonic does all the work for you. That's really all I have to say about this disappointing battle.
Together we can show the world what we can do.
Taking a massive step up in quality, we have the Doctor himself. While his boss battle doesn't actually serve any real purpose in the story, it's still a pretty fun duel. It's the only boss in the game that features only Classic Sonic, and even though I don't really like playing as Classic Sonic at all, I do enjoy this boss. The difficulty is serviceable even though I barely ever get hit ever, and the theme in both phases goes from funny sounding and slow in the first phase where you're smacking the Eggmobile, to frantic and fast paced, as is befitting a fight with a massive Egg Dragoon. I guess you could count the 2 phases as separate bosses considering they have a separate boss bar, but they're both part of the same boss level, so may as well include them both. The design is pretty good, with the first phase being a traditional beat up Eggman with no difficulty, with a good amount of rings, and you have platforms to avoid Eggman's attacks on. The second phase changes it up completely, as now you have to dodge Eggman's laser machine gun as well as dodging rocks that he throws at you. However, those rocks are actually how you damage him. You can spin attack them right back at him, which I find to be a cool way of damaging the Dragoon. All of this leads to a pretty fun encounter, and while it may not have landed very high up on the list, the score still places it as above average.
Together we can show the world what we can do.
Metal Sonic kinda lands here by default. I don't dislike the boss, in fact I think it's one of the best in the game. However, I just don't like it as much as the other bosses on the list. Well, let's go over it. Difficulty is about standard for the boss design, which is where the enemy flies away from you while you run towards him as Modern Sonic so you can get in homing attacks, while also dodging all the various attacks that he throws at you. Those kind of battles are never that hard, but it is pretty well designed. The different attacks are fair, have good timing, and some are even enjoyable to dodge, like his massive charge attack. It's a fun boss, with the varying attacks, the red rings to collect, and the double boost kill is very satisfying. All of these make it a worthy boss, but not quite the best in the game.
Fatality.
Together we can show the world what we can do.
The first of the 3 infinite boss battles lands as the 4th best boss in the game, so you can probably tell that I enjoy the boss battles with him quite a lot. However, the reason why the final infinite boss battle lands lower than the others isn't anything massive. It's actually pretty subtle differences. The boss design follows pretty much the same format as Metal Sonic, except with Infinite's virtual world attacks. Basically, if you get hit by these attacks, you get drained of all your rings and sent into Infinite's Phantom Ruby world. In this world, you can't attack Infinite and there are lots of obstacles that you must dodge, or you face certain death. Unless you're on normal mode like I was for my first playthrough, in which case you only lose 20 rings per hit, meaning you can probably just charge straight through without any concern. The attacks that send you into that state are rather unique in design and somewhat challenging to dodge even to this day. The theme is sort of like the other Infinite themes, a remix of my favourite song ever, Infinite by Danger Kids, Infinite's theme song. I don't think anyone's ever said the word Infinite more times in a single sentence than that one just then. However, this almost orchestral remix of the theme isn't as appealing as the other 2 boss battle themes in my opinion. It's still pretty great though. To cap it off, this is one of the bosses in the game that I have the most fun with. Infinite is my second favourite Sonic character of all time, and this is a pretty thrilling final battle with him, especially with the double boost finisher. Admittedly, it could have been better, but you could say that about all of the Forces bosses, or every boss in gaming in general. Though as it stands, it's still a very fun battle.
Together we can show the world what we can do.
Next up at the number 3 spot we have the second battle with Infinite. In this one, you get to play as your avatar, which in this case is the very sexy Spike the Hedgehog.
Damn!
While the avatar is my second favourite character to play as, even though there are only 3 to choose from, this is still a very enjoyable duel. The difficulty is fair, and it was a decent challenge in my first playthrough. The theme is also the best of the Infinite battle themes, and it actually syncs up with the original song pretty well. The design of the boss is excellent. It has the same Phantom Ruby attacks, except this time there are also robots to add to difficulty, which actually can pose quite a challenge if you aren't careful. You can either wait for Infinite to do a charge attack before you get your strike in with homing attacks, or you can try whittling down his health bar with your Wisp-Mon, which doesn't result in much but chip damage. The attacks in the virtual world are fairly easy to dodge, but do be careful regardless. However, the attacks that actually send you to that virtual world are also very good, from the lingering ones that hover in the air to the pillars that are up from the floor. It's not as fun as the final battle with Infinite, at least in my opinion, but it's still one of the best bosses in Sonic Forces and easily deserving of the number 3 spot.
Together we can show the world what we can do.
The final boss in Sonic Forces is undoubtedly in close contention for the best in the game. First off, this is really the only boss in the game that still has decent challenge to it even to this day. I still occasionally die to it, mostly in the second phase, mainly due to the bullshit that is the floor destroying move. But the difficulty is mostly fair and good, hence the 9 out of 10 score. The theme is also pretty good, fitting for a final boss battle, but I do prefer all 3 remixes of Infinite's theme, at least in my opinion. I can't deny that the design is fantastic. All 3 phases have well designed attacks, mechanics, and are pretty fair. In the first phase you play as classic Sonic, and have to dodge the lasers while deflecting boulders, similar to the Egg Dragoon, except this time you have to deflect the boulders in mid-air as they come down to crush you. You can also hit him with the same rock twice, seeing as the boulder will bounce back once it hits him once, and if you jump into it correctly, you can get follow-up damage. The second phase is certainly a thing. You play as the Avatar in the control form similar to Zavox, on a stage that is rather crumbly. The big robot will smash you with his hand, shoot you with lasers, and even pull the whole damn floor out from under you. The only ways for you to do damage is to either whittle down his health bar by smacking his hand, which will take a good few years for you to do, or you can smack his cockpit, which does come with the risk of falling off the stage. While this phase is certainly my least favourite, I can't deny that it is still well designed from an objective standpoint. Then, the final phase is Eggman piloting that weird-ass spider creature, and you control all 3 characters. And by that, I mean you control Modern Sonic and the other 2 just follow him. This is another forward running segment, similar to Metal Sonic, but it is very, very different in terms of attacks. In this phase, all of the attacks for me are genuinely difficult to dodge. Grabbing rings or getting boost can be a challenge depending if you miss the pickups, which isn't hard to do considering the speed you go, and there are tons of different attacks that must be dodged in different ways. It also takes a long time to whittle down his giant health bar. The only thing I really have to criticize it for is that I don't find it that fun. The constant attacks in the third phase do get frustrating, and don't even get me started on the second phase. However, again, from an objective standpoint, this is probably the best boss in the game, and it is easily deserving of the number 2 spot. But there's just one boss which I find to be a little bit better.
Together we can show the world what we can do.
Well, this is probably an unexpected placement, seeing as the very first Infinite boss battle is at the top of the list. However, before you all start destroying me in the comment section below, let me explain my reasoning first. The difficulty is tolerable for an early game boss, and while I barely ever died to him in my entire history of playing Sonic Forces, the Phantom Ruby walls can still occasionally get me. The theme is very good, albeit not as great as the theme from Infinite's second battle, and the design is pretty good for an early game boss, seeing as the walls require different kinds of dodging, and the level has good ring and boost placement. The snake is also pretty fun to fight on, seeing as you can go right around it. The obstacles in Infinite's virtual world are also pretty well placed, so that also adds to the difficulty in design. As for entertainment, I just really enjoy this boss battle. Early in the game, we still really don't know anything about Infinite besides that he's one of the strongest villains we've ever faced in Sonic history, so fighting him for the first time adds this element of mystery because you don't know what he can do. I'm willing to bet that when most players got smacked by that virtual wall for the first time, they had no idea what was going on. Isn't that right, DiamondBolt?
I hope I don't regret those words in 5 seconds. I immediately regret the words in 5 seconds. What is going on? Okay, and there we go. And that is Sonic Forces, everyone.
Chasing him down is also pretty fun while boosting along a giant snake, adding to the spectacle of the whole thing. And this is one of those levels that I still have fun playing, even after months of Sonic Forces. All of that is why the first battle with Infinite is, in my opinion, the best boss in Sonic Forces. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed my ranking of the Sonic Forces bosses. I'll be doing more of these boss ranking videos for future games like the Arkham series, God of War 3, and of course, the Soulsborne series. Let me know down below in the comments what your favourite and least favourite bosses in Sonic Forces are, and as always, I will see all of you guys in the next video.
I'm the toughest of terrors, I am the darkest of days. I'm the last one that's standing, don't try to stand